Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of Rendezvous with Anza Saqib today, a special one in particular on Cxo Global TV. Now, just to remind you all, Cxo Global Forum is a knowledge sharing platform for all C levels across the globe. We take massive pride in contributing to the knowledge economy with our League of Extraordinary ladies and gentlemen who are not only domain experts, but those key thought leaders who've made a significant impact in the fields that they're working in. Right now, I'm joined in by one of the leading names in Pakistan in a lot of different sectors. So he's done a lot of work. He is a legend, Mr. Naeem Zamindar. So please welcome Mr. Naeem Zamindar. Sir, thank you for joining us today.
It's a pleasure being here, and such a great initiative to really, this whole the digital age is coming alive with knowledge sharing and sharing of experiences, and you guys are doing a fantastic job with it. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. So, most of the people popularly know you as like the CEO of Acumen Pakistan when that was, happening. So, I want to know though, starting from the very beginning, where did you go to school and where are we at right now? Please,
Sure.
if you could tell us a little about the journey.
All right. It's been a long journey. I grew up in Karachi. I went to Karachi Grammar School, and then from there I went to high school in America, where I actually dropped out. Yeah, I didn't like it. It didn't fit in. So I went and did a job in a cafeteria and worked for a year or so before I went back to college. But then I realized I had to go to college and everything. So I gave my placement exams and got into UT Austin. So I went to UT Austin. From there, I moved to San Francisco. I did my CPA there. One of my clients was Apple, right? So I really got inspired. This is long, long time ago. This is the year 1990, 1989, 1990, yeah? So
Okay.
this
Yeah.
was early days of the whole tech revolution, and Silicon Valley was booming. So I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. But before I came back, I wanted to travel the world. So I took a backpack. In those days, a Pakistani passport could go anywhere, and I did. And I
Oh,
traveled the
wow. That's
whole
something we
world.
never heard of or imagined. So, you know, great to hear.
That's a different era. Yeah, so I spent 1 year on the road, traveling, and came back to Pakistan. And my last place was India, right? My mother is from India, so I went with my mother to see her roots, where she grew up, and which we'd never known about, right? So it's just really wonderful. And I came back, I had so much energy. I said, I am going to be an entrepreneur, and I'm going to build a tech company. And we did, right? We did. I was part of the founding team of NIFT, which is the National Check Clearing House of Pakistan. It just took too long to get the license at that time. I was there for 2 years. In 2 years' time, I lost, my parents started saying, what the hell are you doing? I lost a lot of faith in the process. But it happened 3 or 4 years later, but I wasn't there to see it go all the way to become a company, right? But I was there as one of the founding team members. We did the whole project proposal. It was at the State Bank, but I moved on. I moved on to Lahore. I lost so much faith that I moved to Lahore to,
Oh,
to
God.
see, okay, what I could do. So I moved to Lahore and I came across a company which was just starting up, and the company became, I was employee number 6, and we named it Mobilink at that time, right? I was part of the group. It was owned by Motorola. It was really great fun being part of the startup team, and I was responsible for the credit and billing department, right? Now, the previous telecom operators, Parktel and Instaphone, had been wiped out because of bad debt. So what we did was really having tight, credit management, call collections. We were able to reduce it to 2% by having very tight management of it, right? It was really great fun. And
And
setting
that
up
in itself
telecom
is a
company.
success story. That in
It
itself
was
was a success story.
true. It was a huge success story. And we kind of founded the whole DNA of this, at that time, the tech revolution, right?
Right.
And I loved it. I did it for 4 or 5 years. I did multiple roles. And then I looked after customer services. I set up the first call center within Mobilink as well, right? I founded the something called the Club 300 for all the high value postpaid customers. I did a lot of interesting stuff because Motorola had a very dynamic, ownership oriented culture. You took initiative, you got responsibility. So it was great. From there, I was so excited by the whole opportunity that and the .com revolution. I said, let me get out of here. So I went to business school at INSEAD, and which is in France. And in France, we won the European Business Plan competition, and we got funding to set up a company called Communities on the Move. It was social networks before its time, right? So that
Wow.
was a lot of fun. So this was 1999, right, when we got funding from V Ventures, and going really well until 2000 when the dot-com bubble burst. And again, it was down to zero, right? I said, oh my God, I've been through this too many times. I got to figure out this entrepreneurship thing. So I moved to Silicon Valley and I joined Intel Capital. So I did venture capital for about 4 years. Loved it out there. But another bug. So venture capital I loved. So I figured out how this whole industry works. But something else got to me, right? That was meditation. Yeah, and I got so inspired by it that I came back to Pakistan as a teacher, and I became a teacher of meditation called the Art of Living. Yeah, and we taught
Yes.
all these. So I was the
Household
founder in
name.
Pakistan. That's right. So I was the founding team member of that. Then we built a whole team and organization around it. Uh, I did that for a year, but it's a non-profit where you can barely make 10, 15,000 rupees a month. So, and
Yeah.
I couldn't hack it going on buses and everything. So after a while here, I said, let me go back to work. And one day in my class, my ex-boss from Mobilink days, who's employee number one, Zuhair Khalik, he was there. He
Yes.
said, yeah, Naeem, this is all good. But what we're going to do with Mobilink, he'd come back, right, to become the CEO now. He says, we're going to
Yeah.
take this everywhere. We're going to change Pakistan. And I love that idea. So I joined him. I became the chief strategy officer. We grew Mobilink. I was also the founder of the broadband business division there. We launched a broadband service called Infinity that was very
Yes.
successful, but it failed because the technology lost out. It was called WiMAX technology and didn't work out. Yeah. So 3G and 4G is kind of one all worldwide. This technology didn't go anywhere, but then it was great experience doing all of that. Then I got a chance to become the CEO of Athene Telecom, which was in trouble. We turned that around. It was a public listed company. Invested in startups there also, right? I invested in a company called Innovate at that time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was really good because we thought we'll use cloud-based financial services and scale it up using Athene. It
But
was
then
a
I
good
think way
experience.
before its time,
Way
right?
before its time. That's always timing is the key in entrepreneurship, right? Uh,
Yes.
so moving on, I went to, but my passion was still social impact. So I moved on to then do Acumen Fund because I really loved the idea of investing in social ideas, and we had a fellowship program too, and I loved that idea. I did that for 3 years. We invested in about, I invested in 3, 4 companies. We had total 16 investments from solar energy to low cost housing and a lot of interesting, innovative social ideas in Nasra Public
Right.
School. So it was great fun. But then one day I was in Islamabad and my somebody I'd worked with 25 years ago to help somebody else, right? Became the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Shahid Khaqan Abbasi.
Yes.
And so I congratulated him. He said, come over. So I went over to his house 11 o'clock at night, Mubarakbadi. There were a lot of people there. I did Mubarakbadi and everything. And there were some investors there from Barcelona, Pakistanis from Barcelona. And they were complaining, कि यार पाकिस्तान में तो कोई सुनने वाला नहीं है. So I, I started responding to them. So he saw me. He said, Naeem, stay back. I stayed back. And he says, Naeem, I want you to become the chairman of the board of investment. I'll make you a minister.
Yeah.
Because Mifta Ismail is doing this now. He's going to become the finance minister. So I need somebody there. Do you want to do it? I said, let me think about it. He said, no time to think about it. You got to decide right now. I said, oh my God. I always wanted to serve Pakistan and have play a role in making this country great. So I said, I called up Jacqueline, who was my boss at that time, who ran Acumen Worldwide. I said, I got to do this. There's Aisha who can take over. She's brilliant. She's ready to go. Make her the CEO. I want to go do this. She said, go ahead. And I told Shahid, yes. He said, oh, three more requirements. Number one, cut your hair. I had long hair at that time.
I remember. Yeah. I remember photos.
Number two, all this yoga stuff for a while, you got to slow it down a bit, right? Because, you'll be in a sensitive position. And number three, you do it for free. Okay, pro bono. I said, okay.
That's
So
the
I
kind.
did it. I loved it. I love being in government, because it gives you a huge platform to bring about change. People say a lot of stuff,
Absolutely.
but if you go with the right attitude, I learned a lot, and I think I made some impact. especially in terms of the ease of doing business. But I realized as an entrepreneur, that was the biggest challenge. So I was the one who turned it around, right? At least, I mean, turned around because we were terrible. We're less terrible now, hopefully getting better, right? So it was a really great experience. I used, modern management techniques to bring that about, right? I created competition between Karachi and Lahore, I made it transparent and shared the ownership and the recognition for the success with everybody, right? And I created a team of women around me, right, who are actually leading it. And women are great change agents. So my secretary was a woman. The person leading the initiative was a woman. So it was just great. There was a woman on the side of Sindh, right? So we got them all together, and something fantastic happened. Change happened, right? And now that momentum is carrying forward, which is I'm very proud of. But the term ended, and I moved on. I did a small stint at World Bank, but that's when I realized I was the advisor on the digital economy. I realized Pakistan is ready for big change, especially in the financial services space. So I met Nadeem Sheikh, who had just come in to look after Jazz Cash, and he'd also been a legend in terms of global fintech, right? So he and my third partner, who was a European woman called Vladimira, the three of us, and her expertise around internal operating systems of companies for
Right.
scaling, right? So the three of us came together and we've created Neem Exponential, which is a platform to enable financial wellness in Pakistan. What we do is we believe that the day and age of financial, you go into a bank for financial services coming to an end. You would receive financial services while you live your life, you run your business. It'll be integrated, or what we call embedded finance, right? It'll be embedded in your life, embedded in your business, and it'll be there as a part of it. So we are creating that. We've got 6 companies in a portfolio, some of the most amazing companies in Pakistan right now, and we are building this whole. It's called deconstructed finance, right?
Yes,
And
constructive finance. I remember I've gone through the platform as well, and you're doing some amazing work. It's different than what anyone else that I know of is doing in fintech these days. So hats off to you and your team, and I wish you all the best. But speaking of deconstruction and generally disruption, because a lot of your ideas are disruptive. What does disruption mean to you? I've been asking everyone this question today.
mm, I think disruption means something very simple, right? It really means bringing in something innovative, a new approach that can bring about value that wasn't there, right? Create new value for people. And that's why I feel disruption, like, in Silicon Valley, we say doing it 10 times cheaper and 10 times better, right? That's
Yeah.
disruption in Silicon Valley. So that's a mindset that we bring to the table. And, and, and that's how we will make, for example, financial services accessible to the poorest of the poor by bringing about the kind of disruption, right? By bringing new ways. For example, the vast majority of people don't have a credit history or documentation, right? So we are
Right.
using embedded finance to understand them, have insights on them to be able to enable them financially, right? That's
Uh-huh.
where the disruption happens. That's where a new mindset, a new thought process, going after markets that are unserved or underserved and massively underserved, making them, enabling their lives in ways that was never possible. That's for us disruption.
Right, absolutely. And, well said. So at the end of the day, we've seen that the past 2 years with the pandemic, we've seen a lot of changes. Some businesses suffered exponential losses while others found a lot of opportunities. How did these past almost 18 months to 2 years go for you? What did you learn uh, from them? Did you take up a new hobby? Did you rediscover yourself? What happened?
So I think there's 3 things that happened to me. Number one, um, it really was a great time for me because for the first time I spent so much time at home. Yeah. So really reconnecting with my parents, my wife, my spouse, my brothers, and my nieces. We live in a joint family. Moved back I live between Karachi and Islamabad. Half the time in Islamabad, so now I spend most of my time in Karachi because I have to look after my parents, right? I was really worried about them more than myself. So after so many years, spending quality time with all of these people was such a beautiful experience, number one. And also gave you time to reassess your life in many ways. But at the same time, right, I worked harder than I've ever done because this is when we've been building the company. We saw this as a window of opportunity. We moved everything online. Zoom worked better. We could be more productive, and it's been the most productive time of my life, at least, in building our company out. So it's been extraordinarily good for me, right? I'm also, like I said, I do a lot of. I'm a Sufi yogi, as I call myself, right?
Yeah.
I'm a Sufi first and a yogi second. Uh, and for me, my yogic practices really help me manage my energy well, my mind well, and number two, my I've been out there a lot, right? I've been meeting people. I have an adopted daughter who had to get married off in the village in Nathia Gali, right? So that's when I had to go and I had to be, because in the village they don't understand, if you the father of this girl, you need to be there for her and hug everybody, all the guests. That's when I had to really, find ways to be able to protect myself. So I found alternative methods to look after my immune system. So I follow a different approach. I say, you take responsibility. In this COVID, you can't depend on vaccines and medicines anymore. You have to believe in your own inner strength. And because we are
Uh-huh.
incredibly powerful beings, right? To find that capacity to have your immune system strong enough to be able to tackle anything, right? That's what I've done, right? As
Absolutely.
I
I've realized the value of health more than anything,
to
in the
cleanse my
pandemic.
system out.
Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Right. So now, speaking of the pandemic, a lot of you were very productive, but I interview a lot of people on a daily basis who are working in the corporate sector or in some form of leadership. And about 60-70% of them kept complaining that our workforce became so unproductive with this whole work from home thing. We don't like it. We can't wait for it to end. Koi kaam nahi hota, so on and so forth. Why do you think that happened?
So this is the big paradigm shift that's happening. People think, by the way, this tech revolution is about technology sort improving systems and processes. No, it's about empowering humans and building business in a very different way. You're building organizations where people are 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 are, are doing living their purpose. If they're living their purpose, they will do what they need to be able to do the work. In the old world, it was the carrot and stick. It is now beyond the carrot and the stick, right? In this new generation of people are driven by a larger cause, a larger vision. If you're not inspiring them for the right reasons, you're not creating the right culture of sharing, ownership, engagement, you're not building a company for this next generation. A lot of these old world, they're going to die because it's not only the technology, it's also the different way of doing business that they have to understand. It's about empowering people, empowering your team members, letting them own what they do. Right? When they own what they do, they feel responsible for it. They'll find a way. They'll get the motivation. The
Right.
motivation will be intrinsic now, rather than social pressure. Oh, I need to look busy at work, right? You know that they say 80% of the time is unproductive at work, right? 80%. And
Right.
85% of the people are disengaged. And 15% of employees, this is Harvard Business Review study, 15% of the employees actually working against the company. That's the reality on the ground. So you
Right.
got to
So
that's a
how
shift.
do you, because you've been in a leadership position so many times, and you've seen all the ups and downs with your failures and successes and losses and wins. How do you think people should be managed best? Like, what is your leadership style like? How would you resolve a workplace conflict?
See, first finding people who are aligned with you in terms of your vision of what you're trying to do, right? And it needs to be a part of their vision. If it's not, that's part of our interviewing process. It's about the fit. We're looking not only for talent, but also for people who are inspired to do that work, right? So it's building teams around that, number one. So finding the right people with the right fit, inspired, the talent, and then creating the space for them. Because if you are going to get that kind of talent on board and you're controlling them by timing and number of days of vacation, sick leave, it doesn't work. You got to give them the freedom, the capacity, and trust them, building the trust. So the way I've learned to manage, I did this in Vatir as well. I now don't do this stuff. We don't have very large teams, so it's slightly different. We used to have something called OPA. Every leadership, like manager and above, had to have clear outcomes. O for outcomes, P for purpose, A for actions. The first one is, what are the outcomes that you want? What do you want to achieve? Why do you want to achieve it? The how should come last. If the what and why is not clear, the how will never happen. It will be just you're pushing it. So it's aligning people's what and why, and the how happens automatically, right? How it gets done, they will make it get it done. I don't need to micromanage them. They'll figure it out. So that's the new way of managing. I learned this from a guy called Tony Robbins. He's a
Yeah,
self-help
everyone
guru
has.
and management guru. Yeah, he's an amazing man, and it really works. And I've been following this. We had a chief transformation officer called Asad Rizvi, who really
Mhm.
set this process up, and then we did this at scale. Now, first couple of years, it was took a long time for people to take ownership. We are all used to getting instructions and guidance and direction. Now, creating organizations where you take leadership, everybody becomes a leader. That's the new world order, right? The young people love that. They thrive in it. The old generation is still finding it very difficult. So it's going to be a transition.
Right. So, we've spent some time at the Silicon Valley as well. And, we all keep seeing ideas around us, and ideas are a dime in a dozen. It's how you execute them that matters. What would your advice be to Pakistani startups or budding entrepreneurs that are watching right now? Where do you think they need to improve in particular? I'm not going to say where they go wrong, but where do you think they need to improve?
One area they need to improve. The ones which are succeeding are the ones who are driven by a larger vision, right? And bring a lot of rigor and it's what I'm finding is a lot of people are jumping into the race without because it's opportunistic, right? Yeah, you've got to have a large because this is hard work. Being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur is a long journey, and initially it may be exciting. You may get funding, but there are lots of ups and downs. The ones who get through it are the ones who are committed, who believe in the vision, and are truly inspired by something bigger than themselves, right? Till that point, if you don't have that within you, it's going to be tough to succeed in this game, which people don't realize how much competition there's going to be in every sector. There's going to be now with this new economy, massive, not a local competition, but a global competition. How do you deal with it? It's only by drive, continuous and never ending improvement, innovation, being fearless, having the courage and faith in yourself. Having faith in yourself and managing your energy is very important, right? If you get stressed and overwhelmed, you're not. This is a long haul. So your energy, man. That's why I teach. I teach this yogic meditation and and techniques to be able to manage stress, because without that and without deep clarity and presence, you're not going to go win this race. Those are
You need the
the
equilibrium.
fundamentals are important. They're not focusing on the fundamentals. That is also a game of their energy management. They say, for example, they've done a lot of research around very successful people right around the world. One of the key qualities is they all the highest correlation is they wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. They get going early. They have
Yeah.
energy. They get a lot of the work done. They exercise every single day. They look after themselves as well. They have time for their family. There's some you got to be smart about all of this, right? And there's a
Methodical.
formula to
Absolutely.
success. Yes, if you
That's
don't
the
do that,
formula.
it's very hard to sustain it and really make it all the way.
So, but with all due respect, do you think, I mean, like, for example, if I talk about my generation, millennials, we've grown up with stress around us. Like, for example, growing up in Karachi, I mean, I just remember, so we were born with tablets and computers, and then, there's a lot of stress happening in terms of the law and order situation. Now we've, ever since you entered the job market or whatever, there's COVID all around, there are no jobs. I mean, there's VC funding has been cut down. So, playing the devil's advocate, how do you think one can still stay, de-stressed or, have that equilibrium in such stressful times? I think we've lost Mr. Naeem Zamindar there for a second. We'll just wait for him to reconnect with some very interesting discussions. Yes, did you
So
hear?
I heard your question. Yeah. So
Right.
the best way to do it is really doing two things. Yeah. Number one, um, you there's a book I would recommend for all of you budding entrepreneurs. A book called Think and Grow Rich. That's sort of kind of a fundamental book. Yeah. It tells you some of the values. First of all, you need to have reaffirmation. You need to have belief in yourself, right? Once you have belief in yourself, you manage stress and feedback very much better, right? And there are ways to reaffirm it on a daily basis by visualizing it, by in the morning and the evening, right? Every single day, you're clear about the vision that you're creating, so you're anchored around it, and it gives you a lot of strength and rooting. Number one. Number two is taking out time every single day to look after your body as well, right? 20 minutes a day to do some exercise, something physical, and 20 minutes a day at least for meditation, right? Sit quietly, do some breathing exercise, something to just sit silently. Maybe it's music for you, maybe it's looking at the ocean, right? Just silence time, 20 minutes of silence. If you can close your eyes and just be, just observing your breath for 20 minutes, or doing headspace or calm, I tell you the kind of, because see, the most powerful thing in you is your spirit. See, if the industrial age was about the body being stronger than the strength was power, right? Industrial age happened, machines became stronger than human beings. In the information age, and then intellect became most valuable, right? Now in this new age, knowledge is also commoditized, right? And what is becoming most important is the spirit, and your spiritual power is infinite. That's what we believe, is that this, you, when you are in your spirit, you are into infinity. You are able to capture the infinite strength that is within you, infinite intelligence. So having this 20 minutes of silence allows you to tap into this space within you, right? This infinite intelligence gives you direction, it gives you subtle, intuitive capacity to figure out the right thing, to find the right people, or attract the right people in your life, to make the right decisions. You need to do that, right? It's really important to bring that discipline within yourself.
Right.
20 minutes of physical exercise time, 20 minutes for affirmation, and 20 minutes for meditation. Right? You take
Right. So
out
that's
1 hour a
1 hour.
day. This is the best investment you'll do.
Thank you very much, sir. And unfortunately, we've come to the end of today's session. But it's been amazing talking to you this morning. Towards the end, I'd like to ask you one last question. What do you think is the utility of forums like CXO Global?
I think this is brilliant because sharing knowledge and insight is the new economy is all going to be around that, right? It's about learning from each other. It's growing up and growing around each other. It's not copying. See, this is the first wheel, right? Make the first wheel took a long time, hundreds of years. The second wheel just took looking at a wheel and copying it. It took nothing. Same way, we learn from each other, role model each other, and accelerate a growth path. In business school, we call it case studies, right? When I went to business school, we were made to do a couple of hundred case studies. So shortened learning curve. Same way, when we learn from each other, it shortens our learning curve. We make less mistakes. We do better.
Thank you very much, sir. It's been an honor and a privilege talking to you.
Thank you.
Keep contributing to the global knowledge economy. We hope and wish to see more of you in the future. Ladies and gentlemen,
Great.
for those
Thank you.
of you,
It's wonderful being with you.
thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who want to learn more about the kind of work that Mr. Naeem Zamindar is doing at Neem, or just have a chat with him, we've shared some links in the description below. Please keep us updated with your comments and feedback. Up until next time.